been trodden from tendencies. Right on through revelation.
Roots Connections on Q. 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every other Wednesday on Q95, the big station. Dominicans journeyed beyond our shores for decades in search of economic opportunities and educational advancement. Many are ready to give back to their cherished nature island. Welcome to Roots Connections on Q. Join Dr. Simone Matthew on Q95 as we tap into the life and times and expertise of our nature island Dominicans, at home and abroad. From our agriculture and industry to sustainable development, resilience and renewable energy, to the music, art, and entertainment industries. Join Dr. Simone Matthew and guests every other Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We examine where they came from, where they have been, where they are now, and how we can move forward together with our brothers and sisters at home and abroad to inspire and elevate our country, our economy, our people, and our youth to achieve excellence and success. Roots Connections on Q, every other Wednesday night, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Only on Q95, the big station.
Good evening, Dominica, wherever you are, whatever you're doing at this time. Welcome to another episode of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. It is always wonderful to be in your company for our number one program for featuring the change makers in our world, featuring those who are on the front line of effecting positive change. They're not sitting on the sidelines talking about what we ought to do to help our country, our people, and our region to move forward, but they're the visionaries among us who are on the front line of turning that passion we have for Dominica into action for Dominica. And I am sure that we can all agree that with all the changes that we're seeing impacting Dominica at this time, from the visa bans to all the travel restrictions that we're seeing being imposed on Dominica, now more than ever, we need to engage with those visionaries who are prepared to do the work to encourage us to move forward in a positive way. So we continue to see how quickly the world around us is changing. So here at Roots Connections, we engage our visionaries on topics such as the changes we should be concerned about, and I'm sure you can list so many of them at this point, the changes we should be taking advantage of, and what changes we ought to make in order to move our Caribbean region and our people at home and abroad forward. So welcome to episode number 105 of Roots Connections on Q. I am your host, Dr. Simone Matthew. And as always, we have another packed program for you as we continue to focus on opportunities to positively impact Dominica, the Caribbean region, and our worldwide diaspora, especially as it relates to economic development. So today, again, it's no exception. We are going to be looking at, is the diaspora through its generosity and enabling the dependency syndrome, which is crippling Dominica. So again, is the diaspora through its generosity enabling the dependency syndrome, which is crippling Dominica, because we know all too well of that dependency syndrome in Dominica, where we see a lot of Dominicans sustaining their livelihoods by begging. That is the truth. That is the reality. And those of us here in the diaspora, we know all too well, because we have been on the other end of folks asking us to send remittances, barrels, and other items to help them to sustain their livelihood in Dominica. And I cannot take credit for this program. As a matter of fact, I'm so happy that the person who engineered this program is with us today, Nurse Halima Thomas, aka Amma Thomas on Facebook. And I happen to catch her live programs. As a matter of fact, I always always catch her Facebook programs, but I usually catch them on repeats. I can never seem to catch her live. So I was truly grateful when I caught her Facebook program where she was looking at that very important but very difficult question. And so with all the travel bans and the other restrictions, we have to begin to ask those difficult questions, questions that surrounds supporting our families or sustainability. So what should that balance look like? What should the balance look like in terms of, yes, supporting our families through remittances and through sending barrels, but also, what is the balance in terms of how much of that investment should be going towards sustainable development? So I'm very happy we have Nurse Amma with us here today. We also have Mr. Carlos Charles, no stranger to the program, son of our great producer in the studio, Mr. Lambert Charles. So Carlos, thank you for being here. And we will also be joined by Alvin Thomas, someone who needs a no introduction to our platform. But before we get the program off and running, let us say a prayer for our beautiful country, Dominica, and all the challenges that we continue to face. We are always grateful to you, our audience, whether you're listening on the radio or you are joining us on Facebook and YouTube. We are live on Facebook and YouTube at Q95 FM Radio, as well as Push Past 10. So don't forget to share the live, because we have to begin having these important discussions, and not just discussions, but plotting and strategizing a way forward for Dominica, because again, we are seeing so many doors in terms of opportunities closing in on us. So a very special good evening to you, whether you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, or you're listening on the radio. Good evening, Lambi. Always nice to see you on the console, as you will be taking the calls later in the program. A special good evening to Sherwin Norris, our engineer, Mr. G, and the rest of the Q95 family. I think Carlos keeps dropping, but he'll come back again. So let's give a warm Roots Connections welcome. So far, we have Amma on the platform. We are still waiting for Alvin, and Carlos just dropped. So Amma, just go ahead and give your introductory remarks. And I'm kind of curious, what sparked your interest in doing that Facebook program? So maybe we can start there. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. My name is Halima, otherwise known as Amma Thomas on Facebook. I live in the diaspora, and I do wear a few hats with a unique perspective. So I'm a registered nurse here, but I am a wellness entrepreneur. We just started my own Green Ivy Wellness business. And I also own a farm in Dominica, Kudme Farms, that my daughter runs from Dominica. She's actually a returned citizen from US to Dominica, running that farm with she and her husband. And I provide like farm to table health and wellness business that like basically bridges the traditional agricultural knowledge with the modern wellness practice. So through my work here in the US and Dominica, I have seen basically the strengths and the challenges of the both worlds, right? I had the opportunity to spend 2 months on the ground in Dominica, and I got a really good insight as to how life is there. And I'm not here tonight to blame anyone, but basically to explore how our generosity can, quote unquote, sometimes be creating an unintentional dependency, and how communities, youths in Dominica, how we could move beyond that and empower the youths to thrive with dignity and with opportunity. So basically, I have known that this barrel economy, we've talked about it for years on end. It's been about 25 years of talking about how the barrel economy has enabled some level of dependency. And I always said that if I was a sociological professor, I would do a thesis. I would love to explore the thesis on how everything, the migration of us overseas, the gaps that were created, and the gaps we tried to fill with our absence, how this has come to affect the population that is left behind, like serious questions, serious thesis. You can like go at it many different angles, and it could give somebody a PhD dissertation any way you
Absolutely.
choose. So I was just basically once again reminding the public that given the current environment that we're in, that it would behoove us to look at where we are and understand how the world is changing and what we need to move ourselves forward together with the same investments, but in a different manner.
Yeah, and I really like your approach, because far too often we end up in this loggerhead, right? Because people feel attacked. And that is one of the things I do not do with my programs. So this is not about attacking one versus the other. This is about looking at a situation objectively and then figuring out how do we move together as a collective, because that division mentality in Dominica, that is our greatest obstacle, and we will explore that a little bit later. But we're very happy Mr. Alvin Thomas is here, a man who needs no introduction. So he's going to give us his introductory remarks in a minute. But also my goal for this program was as well is to engage with Dominicans at home and abroad, but also in different sectors, because that is one of the other areas we need to look at as we start talking about sustainable development, right? So we have Alvin here, who represents the public sector because he was once the DPSU president. Alvin will correct me in a minute. Then we have Carlos, who's private industry and politics. And as you heard from she is a wealth of a resource all in her own: healthcare, agriculture, the wellness industry. So that was my goal, because moving forward, that is what we're going to need. We're going to need to explore how the various sectors can add to the sustainable development of Dominica. And so in a little while, we're going to explore the diaspora policy, because believe it or not, Dominica actually has a diaspora policy that I'm sure many of our listeners and our viewers were unaware of. So Alvin, I want to thank you, because you sent me that information about the diaspora policy, the regional diaspora policy, and the European diaspora policy. Since 2023, Alvin, we've been planning on doing this program. So I'm really happy that Amma kind of lit the fire under my feet to say, hey, considering everything Dominica and the region they're facing right now, this is the time to begin strategizing for the way forward. So Alvin, let's have your introductory remarks. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Simon. Let me say a pleasant good evening to you and my guest, your guest, Amma, Halima. We go way back, man. We go way back. You know that she carries the last name Thomas in there. So there has to be some connection, you know. So I'm happy to be able to join the platform this evening with her. And also your other guest, Carlos Charles, who I saw came in and must have stepped out, might be having some technical issues.
Yes, he is.
And of course, Lambi in production. Lambi, it's always good to see you, my friend. Holding down the back end of it, you know, making sure that everything goes through. Simon, thank you very much. For those of you who may be hearing my voice for the first time, I'm Alvin Thomas. I reside in Atlanta, Georgia, same state with Simon, I must say. We're pretty much neighbors. You know, I have a very varied background. It might take a little too long to go into it, but she did mention I was the general secretary of the DPSU for some 9 years back then in the early days of the union. And my last official, if I may put it this way, position that I held was that of assistant secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, where I worked very closely for well over 2 years with the Honorable Norris Prevost, the Minister of Tourism. As a matter of fact, just today, he and I was having a very long conversation, reminiscing back on our days in tourism and the things we did in that ministry. But, and of course, I am a JCI. I always have to plug that one in. I think that's an organization that has made me who I am today, or helped, crafted, and molded me I served as president of that organization and is currently a lifelong senator of the JCI International. So that kind of gives a background briefly. In terms of what we are discussing tonight, this evening, I heard a little of Amma's introduction. And I agree to a large extent that we need to reshape what we are doing as a people. And one of the things we have to do as a start, of course, is to remove that them and us, or they and them. I think that barrier has to be broken down. So often when any of us in the cautiously I'm using the word diaspora, the comment is being made, or what do they know, or why it interfering in our business, or they out there, and the them and us, I think, has to be removed. And I agree with Amma when she said that we need to take a whole holistic approach to what is being done now, except to say though that I don't think it is something that can just be stopped, because the last research that I did indicated that in 2024, we do not now have figures for 2025, but Dominicans overseas, and that is in the US, of course, pretty much, to a large extent, remitted it well over 37 million US dollars to Dominica. That's about roughly 104 million EC dollars by way of remittances. In 2017, when we had Hurricane Maria that year, and these are IMF figures, of course, those can be validated. We do not now, as I said, have 2025. Back in 2017, when we had Hurricane Maria that year, we remitted well over 57 million US dollars by way of remittances. Now, of course, remittances comes in various forms. They could come in the little monies you go pick up at Western Union, MoneyGram, or whatever they have, of course, the barrel. But just think of it for a while. 37 million US dollars contributing to the GDP of the country. That's a tidy sum of money. And I guess the question remains, how much of that can we channel into production? How much of that $37 million? 10%, 15%, 20%, 5%, 2%, that we could say, well, you know what, let's find a way to set up a fund, a development fund, whatever we want to call it, and to every dollar that comes in, we put a 5% of that into that development fund. So I think that's where that's begin. But I think too, I will end by just saying that what is developing now in terms of some of us call it the geopolitical landscape that we are faced with, it's like saying you're given lemon, and what do you do with it? Make some lemonade. And I think we, apart from just looking at what's taking place now within the US and Dominica, I think we should also look into it, and maybe it's an opportunity for us to rethink, to re-examine where we are as a region. Because I will also say that small is beautiful, as they say. And we are located in a very geographic location. No one is going to move Dominica from where it is between Guadeloupe and Martinique. That's not going to change. No matter what anyone may say, whatever the leader will say. And the islands in the region are geographically positioned. And I think it begs the question now, how do we develop as small nations? Who do we partner with? And the world is a very large landscape. I mean, when you talk about Africa, the continent, if we just go there just briefly, you're talking about 1.5 billion people. The entire continent of Africa, almost the size of China, 1 point whatever billion. And then if you look at Asia, and you look at Latin America, Caribbean, I mean, so it begs us to revisit, relook what we have been doing and how we move forward in the future. So I'll end on that note, and obviously, as the discussion unfolds, I will make some further more in-depth contribution and more specific in terms of what we are here to discuss tonight.
Right, and it's interesting that you started with remittances, Alvin, because that is exactly where Amma started when she did her program. So once we have Carlos do his introduction, Amma, I want you to start with that information you provided on the remittances and how you started the discussion, because I thought it was very important the way you compared the remittances that Dominicans have invested into our economy, comparing it to other entities that have invested in Dominica as well. But Carlos, let me come over to you so you can give your introductory remarks. And guys, thank you for coming in on the Facebook Live. I see you're coming in. I see my mom, Medina Senos, Jerry Henderson, Yannick Cold, Water, Perriman. So come on in. There's a match. I see your comment. Keep the comments coming in. I will be sure to take them later in the program. So Carlos, over to you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to the listeners on Q95 FM and, of course, the various social media platforms that we're on live right now. Good evening to you, Dr. Simone. Good evening to you, Paps. Good evening, Nurse Amma Thomas, and, of course, Alvin. Any relation? Anyway, we'll get into that. Sorry, I keep coming in and out. I'm having some connectivity issues. I got what Alvin was saying, and I agree. And I just want to add a little bit on the remittances side. It's not just what we see in the barrels and the MoneyGram and the Western Union. We have to also take into consideration the investment that the diaspora makes into Dominica, particularly in those high peak seasons. Mm-hmm. Most of those activities that you see going on, and you see during the carnival, during the Independence Day fetes, and you see all of them. The first thing they do, they have this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tickets sell out very quickly. Who do you think are buying those tickets? Mm-hmm. They're the very same people who come in, they fly in, they pay the departure tax. I'm not sure if that is added to the figures. They also take the rentals when they come in, and they take the Airbnb. Some of them don't want to stay at their home. I know Dr. Simon has a Airbnb thing going on.
You put in my business outside, Carlos.
A free plug for you, Doc.
Thanks.
But I'm just saying that all these things contribute to even a greater economic activity in Dominica. But what we need to also do is find ways to harness all those businesses, all those activities, and find a way to target it into a recurring revenue as throughout the year for the country. Work with the different sectors, the persons in the hair salons, the persons in doing the rentals, the persons in the various businesses, and find ways of getting them to increase their expenditure when they come to visit Dominica. Mm-hmm. Of course, yes, I recognize the other areas such as the Western Unions and so on that the diaspora do. We welcome that, and I know that it is being looked at kind of unfavorably. They're kind of looking at it ticklish, but we just have to work with the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that, Carlos. So Amma, let's jump right into the conversation, because again, I really liked that comparison you did in your program in terms of the remittances and that 37 million US Alvin just talked about, and how that compares.
Actually, Simon, it is 38.63 million.
All right, 38.63
million.
63 million.
For 2024.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm over to you.
So again, when we spoke about it online, it was a whopping like Mr. Thomas, who, by the way, is my father. That's my godfather. Good evening, Mr. Thomas, and good evening, Carlos. Carlos, yes, your parents and my parents were villagers together. So you are family as well, Carlos from Marigot. Good evening to you again. But on a serious note, what we saw is that this 38.6 million, when you look at it, it's 100 and something million EC. And then you have to kind of quantify it into how does it fall as a percentage of the GDP or the overall national budget, right? And that is just direct transfers. We haven't quantified the amount that comes in a barrel, but let's say we were to, an average barrel now is about 800 US dollars to pack, right? And so if you were looking at that contribution even twice annually to a family, that would be about 4,000 EC dollars that would be given to a family annually to help them meet the demands of their home. So overall, many Caribbean countries we see they receive about 20 to 40% of their GDP in remittances. And we see tourism, our contribution to tourism, the World Creole Music Festival. We look at Carnival. We look at the amount through Airbnb. Yes, I'm also involved in that with my daughter. And we're looking at these are major spikes in income for Dominican people on the ground. So when you have to sit and calibrate and quantify how it affects the GDP or the overall financial standing in the Commonwealth, you would see that it has a significant impact because we're just thinking it's us sending money to granny. It actually goes deeper than that because when you tabulate all of those financial data, you're seeing that it may even in actuality double. And our annual budget is over $1 billion, I believe. It's 1 point something $1 billion. Mr. Thomas would quote me on that. I know he loves the figures, but that would mean that that would fall into the 20% of the budget and more on the GDP. So it is very important for us to understand that contribution. Now, we don't want to take away from our country. Let me make it very clear. What we need is strategic investment. What we need is accountability. What we need is programs that turn the remittances into local enterprise, youth engagement and skill training, and partnership between the diaspora and island communities. So, for example, instead of you sending $100 to your nephew or whoever it is that is calling for that money, if we had a situation set up where we could run it through a micro loan scheme, I could say, well, okay, you sign up on this website, I will donate to your project or whatever you want, and we can funnel the money through there so you can have that accountability. We could look at programs like that. So when I was talking, that's how I was looking at it, not saying that we shouldn't give. Actually, we should give more. If in my opinion, we need to give more to our country right now because what's happening is if we don't give more to help build up the infrastructure and build up the gaps between what the government is doing and what it's not doing, if we don't do that, the island will literally sink economically. Because if you look at it from an economic standpoint, the different pillars of the economy that it needs to take to mobilize and drive economic activity, those are not currently activated. And we see the only support, or not the only, but one of the major supports coming from us into Dominica. So that's why I was so passionate about it. it's like, okay, let's have this conversation. Let's find out how I can give more. So instead of sending that money to someone randomly, tell me, what can we do as diasporans out here to come together to create those entities so we can do smoother transitions? Because sooner or later, we may be limited in our ability for cash flow. As we can see the word isolationism coming into, those of you all that have done extensive history, you will see those policies have been enacted through time and history. And so we are in that period where isolationism comes into effect. So we kind of have to know how to narrate through those, like Mr. Thomas was saying, take the lemons, make lemonade very quickly and drink it very quickly and be productive very quickly, because we do not have time. We literally do not have time. I feel the sense of urgency even on my own farm. Once I saw the policies that were coming through last year, boom, one container down. Now we're getting ready to send the other. I'm transitioning because I know the possibility of this place
Yeah, and
as a, yeah, I'm just wrap up. I know the possibility of this place as a final destination is it's a possibility that it may not be. So we would have to build up our island so we can enjoy it
yeah.
with all the things that are in place.
Yeah, and I want you to expound as well, Amma, when I come back to you in a little bit on, because I believe in talking with people who are doing what we need to do, right? So I want to talk with you in a little bit about how your farm is playing a role in everything that we're talking about. And I also know that you do some work with Africa. And you're going to talk about accountability. How do you keep these projects in the space of accountability, in the space of knowing that what you're expecting on the ground is what is being is what is transpiring, and also how are you keeping the people who work for you accountable? So I want to come back to you on that point. But let me say, there's a March. Thank you so much. You have a lot of comments, and I truly appreciate them. Keep them coming. And one of the ones he mentioned so far is give more, but with serious considerations. So I think that's what I was saying as well. But Carlos and Alvin, let me come to the both of you, because again, we have to have these conversations in a very realistic way, because we talked about, the diaspora, the ones who come down for the festivals, who come down for Carnival and Creole Festival. But now with the visa bans, a lot of Dominicans who have visas are petrified to travel. Dr. Fontaine just did a program recently where he was talking about the empty planes. And then we saw on Facebook, a young man posted a video of him on a flight, either going to Dominica or coming from Dominica, that was virtually empty. So we have to look at that as well in terms of the reduction in Dominicans who will want to travel to Dominica because of the visa ban that we're seeing now. So what are your thoughts on that? Because we have to continue talking about sustainable development. And we also, the overall theme of our program tonight is going to be short-term support, because we know our families are in dire need in Dominica. So yes, we want to be the quick response team and continue to send those remittances and continue to send those barrels. But what is the balance between that immediate short-term support versus the amount of money which Alma is talking about that needs to be invested in long-term sustainability projects? So Alvin and Carlos, your thoughts so far?
I am happy that Alvin mentioned earlier about the geopolitical issues that is going on in the world right now. And I will tell you guys one thing that I'm telling all my friends who are resident overseas: your home door is not locked. The Dominica will welcome you home. I don't want to turn on the news and see you being part of the statistic and God forbid something bad happens. But I'm saying one of the things that the diasporans can do including and especially those who, some of them who were part of the scholarships that the government gave and to go and better themselves. I'm happy that they got to do that. One thing that they can consider doing is try and reverse the brain drain that Dominica is suffering and come home to contribute to the development of the country. That's one. And the other thing, for those who have been established and are pretty much comfortable enough to do it, find a way, whether it be with your family, a friend, or even through business partnerships, to develop industries in Dominica and leverage some of the contacts that you may have overseas to create industry in Dominica and work with the I'm pretty sure that a lot of persons who will be looking for opportunities in Dominica would gladly work with
But
persons
but
like that.
but let me play devil's advocate here, Carlos. Let me play devil's advocate. And of course, we're not attacking each other. We never do that on this program. But we have to be able to challenge each other. And Ricardo Santemi, I see you on the Facebook Live. Thank you for being here. Another great person who continues to do so well for Dominica in terms of his Facebook Live program. So Ricardo, thank you for being here. But Carlos, let me play devil's advocate, because I hear a lot of people talking about reversing the brain drain by having Dominicans come home, right? And then we hear about the reality of the jobs, all the young people graduating from college and high school who are unable to find jobs. Just recently, I saw a young person, I don't know if it's a male or female, who posted this long Facebook post on the lack of opportunities for young people in Dominica. That many of the companies want you to have experience. How are you supposed to get the experience when
That
you're in
is
a
true.
level position? And then also, it begs the question of the lack of an enabling environment in Dominica for those who are looking to build industry. So it's easy to say, people should come together and tap into their resources up here and be able to create industry. But one particular example that comes to mind very quickly was the paper factory that I think, I'm forgetting his name, Alvin will help me out with his name, tried to establish, and it fell flat. So
Mackenzie Sever.
Thank you, Alvin. And it fell flat because, again, Dominica does not have the enabling environment. So how do we push past those obstacles?
When we it comes back to governance. So short of us changing the government, which we cannot do tomorrow, and not unless we are given the opportunity, we cannot do it until that opportunity comes. But until then, there are ways that we can find avenues to get things going. I can use someone as an example. One of my dear sisters in our team, she through the year has exported close to $1 million in agricultural produce during the year. I could be wrong with the figure. It may be more, it may be a little less. But she has done significant work exporting produce in through the USVI and from the mainland USA. This is just one example. There are many other persons who I know who are involved in agro processing, animal husbandry. I've always said that one thing that this government has done that I will applaud them for was the installation of the abattoir, but it was poorly managed. One thing we can do is go hard at our export, our agricultural export, our animal husbandry, go harder at that and look to see where, many islands and countries are looking short of eggs, a basic thing, eggs in the US. We still have those flights leaving Dominica going to the US. Why can't some of our persons who are out there, okay, Alma has a farm in Dominica, which her daughter and her husband is running. Something like that can be done, and they can partner, and that export be done without having to use the if we call them failed agencies, arms of the state, and we do it ourselves. Petra was able to do it herself.
Yep.
There are many ways that you can do things. We cannot just say that this person I didn't get through with a job. And yes, many jobs ask you for experience. And another thing that our young people can do is find ways of making themselves more marketable. Get yourself the experience, whether it be through a basic job. A basic job, you start from the bottom. You cannot just get it from if you're coming from college and
A
expect to.
volunteer, right?
Volunteer, can I just
Exactly.
interject here?
Yes.
I wanted to say from my farm, I can only talk of my experience.
Mhm.
So I must say, because I want this to remain very positive for the people on the
Mhm.
ground. This last 2 to 3 weeks, I put an ad out for interns to my farm. And I'm telling you, I was very pleased with the response that I got because in the past, I put it out 2 years ago. I got zero. When I tell you zero, I got zero responses. But through the networks that we are building, like with Mr. Lester Barron and the
Yes.
Dominica Livestock
Yep.
Cooperative,
Yep.
he
Yep.
was able to channel that ad for me,
Mhm.
plus my Facebook. The students at Next, because my farm is in Woodford Hill, they picked up on it and I got at least 5 responses. And I was very pleased with the quality of their presentation of themselves. I have to say, the agriculture teacher over there, Miss Valmore, you're doing a phenomenal job, Miss Valmore, if you're listening. Because when the students spoke to me, they said it has been pushed to them to consider agriculture as a business when they graduate. So that is where I would want to tailor the conversation, that I
Mhm.
have these young people that are coming to me saying, I am here, I am present. Now, what is my responsibility as an investor into the island? Fair work conditions, good treatment, policies like SOPs, standard operating policies, SOPs for sexual harassment, all these things have to be put in place to ensure a productive workforce. You understand? So we had the first person come in today. Now, guess what? A young man sent me a text. He said, so it's for interns alone now. I said, no, I am actually looking for a third employee. And he came and we were very impressed. And he started, and we're going to slowly, gradually bring him up to full time. But we started him with part time. And so there are people on the ground that are willing to work. So I went back in the co op group and I said, guys, like, what can we do for these people? Do you guys know that students are available to work? But, when you solicit someone that has been trained in agricultural science for 5 years, you must put a dollar value on their expertise. So these young children are coming, they got to be paid at minimum wage. They or if they want to volunteer, fine. So I want to say that I was pleased with that. I was pleased with how they're doing. And I just have to say that from our end, the grown-ups, the investors, we got to meet these kids halfway. And a little segue into the transition. I'm glad you brought up the transition, because I did highlight five points of transition when I did my research. Was transform the aid into investment, build local value chains, integrate skills and workforce development, incentivize accountability and goal setting, and to cultivate a culture of ownership and partnership. One of the goals of my farm is that there will be profit sharing, so that the workers feel that they are a part of it, that it's not just them toiling and laboring. Even if you give out 1%, look, somebody exported $1 million. 1% is 10 grand. Why wouldn't I want to split 10 grand after making $1 million with my farmers? So
Mhm.
we have to find ways to
Right.
incentivize the programs for the kids.
Excellent. Alvin, let me come to you for your thoughts. And then once Alvin is done, a very poignant point you made, Alma, that just struck me straight in my heart because I never thought about that before. And I promise a lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers have not thought about this either. So after Alvin makes his contribution, I want to come back to you, Alma, because you made a very valid point, and that is we as the generation who left Dominica, we're very passionate and we do the remittances and we do the barrels, but the generation after us, our children, are not going to be as passionate in terms of sending money and sending barrels. So, in essence, what you're saying, what we're doing on the short term is not sustainable. It is not sustainable, and that is going to lead to a collapse because I don't see my daughter Sophia sending money to anybody in Dominica, and I don't see her packing no barrel and sending barrels to Dominica neither. So hold that thought. Carlos, you can think about that thought as well. But Alvin, let me come over to you for your thoughts so far.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Well, let me. I may say a few controversial things here tonight, and you know me. I am a sharpshooter, and I say it as it is. But I agree to a large extent with the earlier comments that Carlos made, and also Amma. Let me say, for example, and I think Carlos made the point. The remittances and the barrel is just a small segment of the resource and the extent to which you can tap into the diaspora, the Dominican diaspora. It's just a small segment. There are many of us in the diaspora in the US that are financially successful. We have expertise in a number of areas. You have doctors, you have engineers, you have nurses, you have accountants, you name it, it's out there. That is a resource. The problem is that, and Carlos made the mention of governance, we have not been able to take a holistic approach and tap into it. We've been doing a knee-jerk approach all along, a knee-jerk approach. And that's how, unfortunately, things happen, unfortunately, in Dominica. And it boils down on the governance part. Because you have to be able to get the data to make the decisions. You can't make decision absence of data. And you have to take a holistic approach to it. I mean, on your program previously and other programs, some of us has referenced Singapore. Now, granted, you might say Singapore type of government may be slightly different to ours, but they do have a parliamentary type democracy. And Singapore is just about the size of Dominica. 700 and thereabout kilometers, square miles. Dominica is 750 kilometers, square miles. Singapore has no agricultural land. They have no water. They have no resources. But guess what? In 2024, Singapore GDP per capita was 90.674 US $1,000, 90,674 US. Barbados was 25,366 compared to two. Dominica is estimated GDP per capita for 2025 at $9,944. Now, let me just say something on the young people. So often we say, oh, young people don't want to do this, young people. And that is not quite true. I'm just attested to that. In the absence of a structure and mentorship for young people, what are they going to do? When I grew up as a young man, I had several mentors around me that groomed me and was there and provided. I didn't happen to be what am I today all on my own. No. I had my starting with my parents, and then I had mentors at school. I mean, the things we did at SMA. So herein lies the question. And I always throw it to persons like in my peer. What are you prepared to do to mentor these young people? And I commend Armor for what you do. Because in the absence of that, I look at this policy document that we referenced earlier from the Dominica Diaspora policy. On the area that deals with investment opportunities, there's 3 bullet points. Three bullet points. Non-resident Dominicans are invited to invest in any legitimate area. What does that say? Notwithstanding this provision, there are certain sectors that appear particularly suited to their investment, given their proximity to market. These include the tourism sector, agricultural products, particularly with appeal to exotic and ethnic market segments. Information technology-based activity, housing, and timeshare accommodation. Number 3 bullet, Dominicans in the diaspora are encouraged to enter into joint venture with local business operators. Very vague. On the question of development finance, 1 bullet. Government will work with Dominicans in the diaspora to develop financial instruments through which overseas Dominicans might contribute to funding projects at national and country level.
Has that been done?
And that's the point. 1 bullet, very vague. Now, recently, I heard the Minister for Housing or Lands said that she's offering young people an acre of land at $1 an acre. Great idea. Great idea. But where is the holistic approach to it? You take a young person and you say, I'm giving you $1 an acre land. Where's the capital investment to work the land? Is the land accessible? We are a forested country. Who's going to clear that land? What kind of crop are you going to put on the land? Have we identified a need and say, well, you guys, there's a market for pineapples. There's a market for anthurium lilies. There's a market for passion fruit. And therefore, this is the way you could form yourself into a cooperative. And these young people can come together. Who is the mentor? I mean, to just come and glibly say, I'm offering you $1 for an acre of land. And it sounds so good. And we all going to say, great job. I mean, this is where we are today, Simon, unfortunately. And I agree with Carlos when he talks about the governance. Let me just say quickly, in terms of what you said, and in terms of our next generation, I don't think it is quite so. I have 2 boys. 2 boys. They were born in Dominica, but spent most of their life here in the US. You know, they came to me a year or 2 ago and said, Daddy, we want to open a business in Dominica. It was the last thing on my mind to hear them coming with that. They said, Daddy, we want to open a business in Dominica. And we had this family meetings going back and forth. And I say, really, you want to do that? They say, yes, Daddy. So I'm saying this to say that your daughter may not send the barrel, but your daughter, depending on her area of training and expertise, might tell you, Mom, I want to go back to Dominica and start a business. I want to go back to Dominica and do X, Y, and Z. But the environment must be conducive for that. And that is where, as Carlos mentioned earlier, the whole question of governance comes in. We cannot do this thing. And given what is happening now in the region, it is important that these CARICOM leaders really step back and realize where we are and understand that they have the lives and the destiny of the people of the region in their hands. And they better come quick and do something smart and quick about it. And we can do it. We've done it, those of us who traveled and migrated overseas. I mean, you're in Atlanta, Simon. You know the number of us that are in there, our expertise, our background, our influence. So we're not afraid of work, as they always say. No pas peur travail. We know to work. We know to excel. But I think it behoves those back home to and as I said, we need to get away from the them and us to really approach this thing. And I think it can be more timely now, given what is happening, for us to do that. I heard the Prime Minister of Canada is having a meeting within the next week or so with CARICOM. And one of the things that he said in his discussion with when he made a comment, I'm just trying to see if I can quickly get it here for you, because it's worth mentioning. I mean, if he can see it that way, why are we Dominicans not seeing it in that same vein? Why are we not? Okay, he says He says in his comment, while not seeking to alienate or overtly antagonize the United States, CARICOM must seek to broaden its global partnership in the Americas, Africa, Asia, including the Middle East, so as to provide itself with greater economic freedom and therefore insulation in dealing with great powers, unquote. That was the Prime Minister of Canada that was sending that message to CARICOM leaders. Mm-hmm. So I will just end by saying that the future is great. The future is great. Don't underestimate that. But we now have to do much more. Those of us Dominicans at home and in the diaspora, and persons like Alma need to be commended, mm-hmm. and many others like her. But let us see it in a way that understand. And Carlos is right. Until we can get the governance, until we can get a governance in the way it should, mm-hmm. then we will continuously doing a knee-jerk approach to this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm going to come to you in a minute, Carlos, but let me come to you, Alma, because I'm not sure if you heard when Alvin talked about that his two sons, we want to commend them for starting the business in Dominica, but the concerns you raised in your program was that Dominicans, the next generation of Dominicans, are not going to be as passionate as we are about sending remittances, sending barrels. So kind of just expand on that.
When I mentioned that, you see, I don't know how old Mr. Thomas's children are, but let me go to my 18-year-old versus my 28-year-old. So my 28-year-old grew up going to Dominica every summer. The 18-year-old, she's passionate about Dominica. She loves Dominica, but I don't see her. What I meant by that statement, I don't see her packing a barrel to send to someone in Dominica. Mm-hmm. I see them investing in Dominica, but at a professional level. Now, I wanted to go governance because mm-hmm. I am very passionate about this topic. Governance matters, but it's not the end of the conversation. Mm-hmm. Yes, governance is central, but we cannot indefinitely wait for political change before acting. You know, right now, people are succeeding. Carlos just named one woman who has defied the limitations, the boundaries. What we need to do is engage Petra. Hey, Petra, what is going on? How have you defied that? What have you done? How can I come on board with you? Because I know Petra. She talks to me sometimes. Mm-hmm. She would have been a great person to come in here as well.
Yeah, she's going to be on my next program.
Okay, so you can pose some of those questions to her. $1 million in agricultural produce, okay, in a single year to the USVI. How did she do it? So what we need to do is get into action. We keep talking and talking at this government that is not moving an inch for us. So make a way around them. You carve your own road. You do what you have to do, which is where I am. Is it difficult? Very difficult. But you have to work with who's there, what's there to make it work. We cannot just keep this approach that because the government doesn't have policies on certain things that we're going to limit ourselves. If I had to look at what was served to me on a platter to go and start something in Dominica, I wouldn't. But the passion and the vision to make sure my kids had something there is what drove me. Now, I fold my kids into the vision. So yes, they see it, but on a different level. And thirdly, what I would like to add to end this response is that in Marigot, if anybody follows us, we have taken it to another level recently. We created 6 zones in Marigot. We named the zones and we appointed youth leaders to each of those zones. And the people organizing that behind the scenes came and they looked for all the diaspora people. They reached out to me. Can you help with agriculture expertise? Can you do something? So this may be a new model that we have to look at. What can we do? We have to start acting. And I want the next village, I want Laplane to say, I cannot do Marigot. I want Wesley to say, what Marigot are you talking about now? We can do better than them. I want Calabishi to say, Wesley, Marigot, we can outshine them. And I want that good, fierce competition to be reinstated back into our country. And through that, we're going to build the country one village at a time. Now is not the time for conversation on limitations of governance. I beg to differ. I have lived it. I do not want to even talk about government right now. I want to know what can I do for my people. And my head with your head and the next head, it is impossible for us not to find ways to come in with our excavator and excavate the road, build new pathways to success for the people.
Oop, she dropped. Oh, she'll come right back. But Carlos, I want to come to you. But before we do, let's jump into the studio and invite the callers to come to join the conversation. So let me come over to you while we try to reconnect Amma.
Roots Connection and Q, taking your calls. The numbers are as follow: 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. Those are all local numbers. The international or the overseas number is 305-432-9624. Let me run those numbers again. 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. Those are the local numbers, and the overseas or international number 305-432-9624. And we have one caller on the line. Standby.
Yes,
Caller, please go ahead. Caller, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening to you, Lambi. Happy New Year, and good evening to the rest of your folks, Dr. Simon.
Good evening.
My mentor, Mr. Thomas, and Hallie, my very good friend Hallie. It's great to hear from you and see that your agribusiness is doing well in Woodford. We've had several conversations about that. I always appreciate your program, Dr. Simon, because of the depth of the conversation, which is sometimes lagging in our society. The critical thinking and where your conversation is going. It's not just entertainment, but it's education. And more importantly, I would like to see more action out of this kind of discussion. Some of the things you've been talking about, Mr. Thomas can attest and Harry can attest. We've had conversations about it. And one of the things that I started writing something about population, because one of the important subjects we did in school was population migration, population density, the population distribution, which has to do with young and old. The reason why I'm saying this, because a lot of times when we talk about markets, I think people think of markets as being a physical place, just a space. And don't realize markets are really people. And when you hear potential markets, it means the amount of people that has buying power to purchase your goods and services. And we also talk about GDP and GDP per capita, and GDP is the total output of goods and services, whereas GDP per capita is the total output of goods and services per person. And why that is important, it has per person on there, which tells you for your GDP per capita or your GDP to be very large or meaningful, everybody is counted when they say per capita. So what that means is that your people, your population have to be one productive. So statistics such as unemployment rate, unemployment among youth, the availability of jobs, and how many people working and being productive, whether it's in the primary industry, the secondary industry, tertiary industry, is really important. as to your overall production of goods and services in your country. That's one. And two, how important it is for people to be part of the market, meaning that if I open a business in Dominica, does my market have the available funds to sustain whatever business? And I think too often in our development, too often our policymakers do not factor the importance of the population in the development process. Therefore, we are losing out on the human capital, which is the brain drain. We don't care if we send people to study and they don't come back because we don't value the skills, the gifts, and the talents that that population have to build a society. And I think that is the biggest issue we have. So now we're facing an existential problem with the United States and the global order. We are not seeing the importance of the Caribbean region, which has about 40-something million people, and how we can incorporate the development plan to make sure that, one, the gifts, the skills, and talents of that pool is realized. Two, that these people have enough buying power to sustain a local market. And three, how we are going to get that population to see their wealth and develop, thereby getting the young people to stay, getting the people to come back, and getting the region to be sustainable. And I think in all that conversation, in all the planning we have had, I think the least important in the entire discussion is the value of our population, our people, which makes up the market, which makes up the resource. And that has been a significant problem in having our development. And finally, before I go, I always ask myself, how comes a population of 400 million people in the United States could build the largest economy in the world? And you have countries with over 1-point-something billion people. And right now you're hearing that talk about the amount of young people in the African continent with over 1.5 billion people and how important that market can be. So just imagine increasing the buying power of these people in that country and the potential it has to be sustainable. I will end there for now. There's so much to say, but I am listening to your program and always a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I'm going to give you I'm going to send you a message later because I want to invite you to the next program because you always have such wonderful contributions. But I want to jump to Carlos very quickly. I'm going to come back to you. I want to jump to you very quickly. But what I want to do, because we're already at the halfway mark of the program, is I want to talk a little bit more about that diaspora policy, because I think that should be the overarching guideline that we should be operating on. And when I look at this document and I see that it was created since 2010, it begs the question, why has it not been put into action? So let me just read a very quick paragraph from that policy. It says, Diaspora Policy 2010, established by the Ministry of Trade, Employment, Industry, and Diaspora. The diaspora policy focuses on the Dominican diaspora and recognizes its ability to contribute meaningfully to the country's social and economic development. The diaspora policy focuses on citizenship rights, skills retention, skills transfer, financial and economic incentives, investment opportunities, trade promotion, tourism promotion, and cultural exchanges. In relation to each of these topics, the policy commits the government to a range of activities such as working with its diaspora to develop financial instruments through which they may contribute to funding projects at national and community levels, establishing a database of skilled non-resident Dominicans, and encouraging information flow from the diaspora to the government to guide policy and strategies. The diaspora policy also established an annual Dominican Diaspora Day in November in order to meet with visiting overseas nationals to monitor the implementation of the diaspora policy. And my question to you, my esteemed panel, is, have we seen any action with regards to that diaspora policy? I know that there is an Invest Dominica opportunity. So I know that that exists. But in terms of everything that I've read from the diaspora policy, have we seen any action with regards to this being the guiding document of engaging the Dominica diaspora in the development of Dominica? Carlos, your thoughts?
Yes, so you see, it comes back to what I was saying earlier. Government put policies in place, right? But that our diaspora people or diaspora persons or overseas nationals, they need to look at ideas, look at things that they want to do, and find ways. There are systems in place right now. You don't have to necessarily go to a minister or a pal rep or somebody. You know people. There are persons, and I'm glad you mentioned the Invest Dominica, because I do know they work with persons who are overseas to develop programs and so on. So we should not be limiting ourselves to what is being actively promoted. Anybody that wants to do something for themselves should push themselves to do what they have to do and make things.
Oh, did he
I
freeze?
can use someone. He wouldn't mind. I can use someone like Emil Puter as an example. He invested in Dominica, and he's doing very well in the shipping business. It doesn't necessarily have to depend on government, and there are things that are already in place. If he wants to, as a foreign national, as a Dominican living in foreign land, he wants to do a new business in Dominica. There are things that are already in place for persons like that to invest in whatever activity he wants to. So yes, the diaspora can work.
Yeah, I want to come to you, Alvin, and then I want to come to you after I go to Alvin, because once you're finished making your contribution, I want us to now start talking about the way forward. And I think the example of your farm, the example of the work that you're doing in Africa, are very important examples that we should share to inspire other people to move in that direction. Lambi, did you have a call? Okay, so Alvin, let me come to you. Just your thoughts on what I read, and have we seen any movement with that diaspora policy, and who should be responsible for activating that diaspora policy and putting it into motion?
Simon, I'll be very blunt. While I do not dispute what Carlos just said, that folks on an individual basis can do those things, there is absolutely no doubt that that policy has not been effective in the manner it should. I mean, Carlos and those who are listening can go and do a quick Google search. AI now is very, I mean, anything you want as AI, you just have to be cautious what it gives back to you. But in terms of a diaspora policy and the way in which we have failed to harness the potential of Dominican diaspora, that policy hasn't done anything. If you look at the diaspora program for Israel, if you look at the one for Ireland, go Google any one of them and look at the influence that folks from Israel. Why do you think Israel have all that support they're getting from US and influence? It's because of the diaspora influence and the fact that their policy is so strong. Ireland, you look at it. I mean, we mentioned earlier the remittances of 38.63 million in 2024. You think of all of the, I mean, you had I don't want to maybe walk that road, but you had a prominent doctor, Dominican doctor, who wanted to come back and do and give. eventually he finally was able to open a clinic up
Clinic
in his
Point
village.
Michelle.
But the frustration and the challenges that he have, that is not to say that if you're faced with those challenges, you give up. The point I'm saying is that this thing has to be done in a holistic way. It can't be this piecemeal approach. And that is why we are where we are today. I commend Alma for the work that she has been doing on her farm and several other persons. I mean, there was a program recently I listened to, I think it was Pastor Jack, a farmer back home that was talking about growing cocoa, how the market is so good now for cocoa.
Pastor Banis.
Banis,
Yes.
exactly.
Adrian Banis.
I listened to that program recently, and it pained my heart. The frustration that he was in. But having said that, he wasn't prepared to give up. We had not too long ago a gentleman, a Caucasian at that, who visited Dominica and saw the potential for coffee.
Ezra.
Dominica producing the best coffee. And what have we done? I mean, for example, we get monies from MoneyGram and Western Union and all of that. If that diaspora policy was working as it should, could we partner with Western Union and MoneyGram and say, because they're making money, when they send this money out. You pay a fee out here, and I think they pay a fee when they get it as well. Could you partner and say, well, okay, give us a 1% of whatever money is coming through, and put that 1% in a development fund that can now go back and assist programs like what Alma is doing with young people in agriculture or in manufacturing or whatever the areas might be. So I'm saying, yes, I commend all of those like the ML Putters and those persons who are doing. And like I said, even my own two boys eventually did open a business in Dominica. But at the same time, I think the urgency of now, and given where we are now, we can't treat this thing as business as usual, the way we've been treating it in the past. If, for example, that policy, that diaspora policy, could say, okay, we're going to set up a development fund, and we want you, rather than taking $1,000 and put it in Bank of America or wherever it is, how about taking that $1,000 and invest it in a development fund, and you'll get a return of 2% on it. But that fund is going to build up. Can you imagine you have 100,000 Dominicans or even 50,000 Dominicans put in $1,000 on average, $2,000 into that fund? What kind of monies we're talking about? So I'm not going to give them a pass. I'm certainly not. I think where we are now is urgent. It's urgent given what is happening. And I agree. While I agree, we all have to come together and don't feel dismayed by what is happening. But I think we have to take a much different approach towards the way we want to see development and our people in the region.
Yeah, and let me come to you, Ahmed, but let me also mention, raise even another concern, because I'm not sure how well we are paying attention to the news, but a recent news report has stated that the Chinese government is now dispersing less loans to Africa, and now they're on the path of repayment, right? So what are the implications for Dominica? Because we know that the number of loans cannot be indefinite. We cannot just keep receiving loans from the Chinese and other entities without a view of when these loans will be repaid. So now again, as we're seeing in Africa, less loans are being dispersed, and now the Chinese are looking to what we call service the loans, which means that they're now looking towards these African nations repaying them. And then it begs the question, well, what are the consequences if you are unable to repay those loans? What are the consequences for these African countries? And by extension, what are the consequences for Dominica when it is time to service these loans? So just more concerns that we're raising as we're looking at, is the diaspora enabling the dependency syndrome, which is crippling Dominica? So that is our topic for this evening, if you joined us late. But Amma, let me come over to you for your thoughts. And we need to start talking about the way forward, because one of the things I do want to mention, I cannot talk about the Dominica Livestock Cooperative enough, because they are a true example of what sustainable development looks like. They are a true example of what collaboration looks like. And as a matter of fact, I made a note, because since their inception, I have also linked them to other farms such as Barnes Farms, Glamorous Acres, Petrocarbon. I know, Amma, you're a member of that group. So we're seeing how they are bringing the synergy. So I think that they are such an important example of what can be done in agriculture. Now, if we take that same mentality, that same approach, and put it into other sectors of the economy, imagine the direction we can all have in the various sectors. But Amma, let me come to you so we can start talking about the way forward and what you're doing with your farm in terms of accountability and also your work in Africa.
So I just wanted to respond quickly to what you were talking about. So my angle, and I'm going to maintain it because I think it's very important for us to get out of the rut where we are. And like the other Thomas, my father, I'm a straight shooter. And my angle is that development doesn't begin when policy is perfect, right? It begins when people begin to organize what already exists. We cannot, we will not, I will not wait for government to move my direction. I move, I chart my own destiny. I am the prime minister of Kudme Farms, right? I run things over there, right? Now, if I have 5 people in the community thinking like that, we need to liaise and move forward, which is what Dominica Livestock Cooperative is doing. Now, coming to my farm, and I want to talk about this because sometimes we don't look at the situation and do a 360, right? When I moved my stuff from the US to Dominica, I got 0 resistance. So let me say one person's experience based on how they approach it may not necessarily be the experience of everyone, right? We moved very quietly under the radar and we got what we needed done. And the staff and everybody that assisted us was very professional. So coming into Dominica and coming to build a farm, I had to look at how I was going to run the farm. One of the very first things I did was to develop an agricultural plan.
Give me 1 second. Lambi, I think we can hear your phone coming in through the speaker. So sorry about that. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
So going into action. When I came, there was nothing. There was a house abandoned on 9 acres. We started to move methodically, setting 1 layer, the foundation, then the building up, then the building up. We couldn't find labor. I had to convince a couple young men to come and work with me. I had to convince them because their experiences working with other Dominican people have not been that great. They work, people don't pay them, etc., etc. So we haven't even gone into those parts yet, right? And through trust, through building trust, I was able to show them what the vision is and where we're going and how I don't even want them to stay with me forever. I think that's the biggest sell for getting the employees that I've gotten is that, okay, in a couple years, I need you to go and replicate this on the land you have over there. And I need you to join me as a conglomerate and build it up after you've worked on what you've done in my farm. So you learn from me. I set you up with training. We have programs running through Trinidad every weekend for $20. That's one thing that people in the diaspora can do. They can sponsor a kid to take a weekend seminar in agriculture with this guy, Dr. Rehad, who's a UE lecturer and actually works with the government of Dominica, right? So we can set up those relationships. I refuse, and I think this is where I intend to be successful.
Oh,
And I
one second,
think,
Amma. Hold your thought. I'm sorry. We have a call coming in. One
okay,
second.
go ahead.
Hold that thought, Amma.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Lambert, good night.
Good night.
Miss Matthew and your guest.
Good evening.
Yes, I just love your discussion. Very excellent. I don't know what could happen. My name is Ronnie. I'm a small manufacturing person. I do different products on the island of Dominica. Some of my products are the supermarkets like Smart, Astafans. The two gentlemen who talked earlier on, I can't remember the name. I think one is from Benz and the former president of the PSU, something there. They touched some excellent points, and I've been saying that for the longest while. Even with the people that doing manufacturing on the island, processing, I've been telling them that we have to form one federal industry so that we can do better, we can work better. Everybody's on their own. I've been telling them, look at the independent time. Look at the marketing rules of sitting there at the independent time, the independent weekend. Nothing is happening. I tried to pull up some people. I have a book there with around 40-something people named around Rose who sell and vend. I tell them, let's form an association. I already get everything organized. We had a lawyer, and the lawyer that just asked for a few information. And everybody is on their own. It's like what the gentleman just said. Dr. Dangaben wanted to do a medical thing, but he's on his own. But if he come together, like Miss Alexander, which is the Cancer Foundation, you see, get a team of people around, an experienced, retired doctor, who will recognize her better than you alone. And that is the problem with us. I think in the ending of 2000, going up to the 90s, the European Union come down and they bring some funds and they bring down training. I think Mr. Williams, the former president, and Dexter, they was coordinate that program. A lot of us get training. I think those people from Granby that they cold pot soaps. Mackenzie get a training. They was giving us business plans, certificates, a couple other things, and they give us some real good training. They bring people from all over, bankers, people in finance. But just what the gentleman said, that we're not going to make it in that attitude. We too selfish, you know. One of the places we buy all the raw materials in Dominica, which is a drug store. There are three big megawatt drug stores. We buy all the raw materials from bottles. You imagine you have to buy empty bottles, 2 something, all the raw peppermint. And these people don't even want to cooperate with us to buy all local things to put on the shelf. The person that making the order tell me they rather to order, and we come in and buy the raw material. We're supposed to protest. I've been bringing that to the management, and it's like nothing, and that is the selfishness. Darling, I don't like to talk so selfish. Dominica have some lovely people. Even Mr. G, I told him that the other day, you have to have a program for the youth at the catching hour on a Sunday, so that the people can wake up. You alone you can talk, you know, but you need the youth, the strength of the youth, as the lady just saying there, this lady who's speaking about the farm, the could. It's not about money, you know. It's about working. That's what the elderly people do. They tie their waist with a mahu, and they 6 men goes out and work. You know? And Lambert is from Marigot. Lambert could tell you the team of people that was working. Marigot used to be a flamboyant, you know. People would leave from all other villages just to come to Marigot on a Sunday to buy bread, fish, and go and look at the planes land at Melvin Airport. People leave from Salisbury, Granby. But something about us, that whole Western culture, we adopt. That America culture is good to educate us, but it makes us become very selfish as America. I'm not saying everybody are like that. And I totally agree with you, first gentlemen. We have to change the attitude. We're not going to survive, you know. Trust me. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Simone, can I respond to him?
Yes.
Because what he's saying is true, and I was coming to that. So in my journey to Dominica, I have several friends that have the same journey. And you know, I'm on this by myself.
There's a feedback. Don't know where it's coming from. Is it your mic on?
I don't
Do you
know.
have another device on?
I don't think.
Okay, let's try. Let's try.
Yes.
Again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So I am glad the caller brought that up, because really on my farm, I'm by myself. Every single investment that is done on that farm is done by me. Yet I have people that tell me they want to do the same thing. Yet we just cannot come together to have that conversation. We think that if we give away our secrets of how things are being done, that somebody's going to come and take it over or manipulate it or not make us productive and active or not get the amount of profit. For example, petrocarbon, glamorous acres. Okay, these two people have already charted the way for us to the US.
Yep.
Call them. Let's talk to them. Let's form a unit with them. And that's what I mean by I'm not going to sit there and let policy prevent me, because they have already shown us it can be done, right? We need bottles. Those bottles you need to bring into Dominica, find out where they're ordering it from China or wherever. Order it. Get a co-op that can order it for themselves and drive the cost down. I'm pretty sure those.
I think that is what he's saying. And Ronnie,
Yes.
I've heard you on other programs, and I certainly hear the passion in your voice. And what I would like for you to do at the end of the program, I always give my email address. So I would really like to engage you in a conversation with everything that you're talking about, because you've always been good at mentioning the real challenges on the ground. I've heard you before, Ronnie, and I would really love to engage with you. So at the end of the program, when I give my email address, just make sure you have a pen and a paper so you can write down my email address. You can reach out to me and we can start really talking about the challenges that you and others are facing on the ground. So thank you, Ronnie, for calling. Amma, let's wrap up, and then I want to go over to Carlos and Alvin so we can talk about the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, let's segue into going forward. Going forward, I would say the biggest thing would be cooperation.
Yep. Cooperative.
At the level of what we see being done in the DLC. Yes. I mean, that group is on fire. Like, we are in there every day. I cannot even keep up. Anything we want, anything we see, Mr. Byron, other people are ready to help. It can be done, people. Let's move away from talking about what is not there to serve us. Let's make our own policy. Let the private sector stimulate itself. We have become too dependent on the conversation of what is not being done. We have to do it for ourselves.
Excellent. Carlos, let me come to you. The way forward, that's where we are in this conversation, the way forward. And then Alvin, I want to come to you as well. And let's also include the conversations, because last year we saw so many school reunions, right? We saw so many reunions.
St. Andrews.
St. Andrews, and we featured a lot of them on this program last year. So what is the next step? The SMA Foundation, Alvin, you're a part of that. What is the next steps? Because again, these are the keys, the people who are already doing the work, because everyone knows, I don't want to hear nothing about what we ought to do, what we should do, because then, we're talking about what we should do, but everybody's pointing the finger at you because they're not prepared to do the work. So we continue to engage with those who are doing the work. But what are the next steps from these reunions in terms of moving this country forward? Because like Amma said, we cannot continue to wait for a change of governance. Yes, governance is important. It has a role to play, especially with implementing the policies. But again, with the lack of action that we're seeing, what is the way forward? So Carlos, your thoughts, the way forward.
I'm here as a politician besides being a small business owner, right? The topic of this discussion today is the diaspora enabling the dependency syndrome, which is crippling Dominica. I don't think the diaspora is doing that. And we're talking about solutions, right? The previous caller who called in there are opportunities for the diasporas to contribute in the local environment, which is some of the things that I mentioned earlier. Let me give you an example of something that occurred some time ago. A diaspora person reached out to me. One of my business is into trucking and heavy equipment, and he said, "Carlos, I want to participate in the international airport project." Now, granted, it did not work out the way it should because of policy and so on. We saw a whole set of foreign trucks coming on our. All right. Let me give you another example of something diasporas can do right here. You see this thing? This is vinegar. This was created right here in Dominica. I spoke to this young man. His name is KV Vidal. He's from Salisbury. And I asked him, well, what are you doing for your export? And one of the things that he told me is because of the production costs, he cannot do as much as he would like to do the numbers, to set up his branding and so on and so forth. Because when you want to go export and compete internationally, you have to do your products at a certain standard. Probably somebody from the diaspora can reach out to this young man and partner with him. I'm pretty sure he would want to work with, and that doesn't have to depend on governance. All those things can be done in solving the problem that we see and moving forward. These are just certain examples that jump out to me right away.
Yes, and those are very important examples, Carlos. So thank you. And Alvin, let me come to you. The role of our organizations, JCI, the reunions we saw. But Indigenous Bushman is on the live with us, and he raises a very important point. Trust and cooperation. That word trust, Alvin, it is such a loaded word because we know that there is a lot of distrust, and with good reason, between Dominicans overseas and Dominicans in Dominica. Because first of all, we have the mentality, and I was very disappointed to see a very prominent Dominica who posted on Facebook that complete mentality of all you left, and we had to do what we had to do to develop our country, right? So that is a mentality that is going to get us nowhere. So we're not going to expound on his post, but that word trust, because we know there's so many people who have been burnt. So many people who've sent money for projects in Dominica, whether it was building your home. I know of one particular case where a lady, a hardworking lady up here in the US, sent money for someone, a trusted person in Dominica, to register her business on her name, and he turned around, registered the business on his name. The importance of the trust. How do we build the trust, and the roles of the organization, Alvin, the way forward?
No, I think you made a very important point. And earlier on, of course, when Amma mentioned the word trust, I think that is so important. In any relationship, whether it's a business, family, personal relationship, trust matters. It matters a lot. And it is something you take time to build over a period of time, but you can lose it in a second. And once you've lost it, it becomes even more difficult to regain it. So I think that's important. And of course, the whole question of collaboration is also important. I think, and I referenced earlier the fact that our small island states need to collab together. But let me just end though by saying, or let me just make my closing comments, if that's what it is. To say
not,
that,
not quite, not
oh,
quite.
not quite. Okay. But let me just say though that I think we must see the glass half filled instead of half empty. And there's a lot of potential. Having made the comments that I made, does not erase the fact that there is tremendous potential. Let me also say though that migration has been taking place to Dominicans going overseas for a very long time, even before maybe I was born, or Amma, or Carlos. You had folks going to the UK, to England, to the US, to Canada. I mean, you name it. And what we have seen with those folks who have migrated, a lot of them have been able to send monies back home, build their homes. I mean, how do you think a lot of those homes that you saw being built around Dominica? Yes, some of those were built by folks who work and live in Dominica, but a large number of them too were built by folks from overseas who went and they were able to send back and help to develop. So there is potential. On the question of the reunions, I think that's a positive sign. That's a very positive sign, and it's something we need to develop and build on. I know, for example, that was it Grandfond who had a reunion that just recently? Laplin had one, and you had this community reunion, and you also had the school reunion. In our case, St. Mary's Academy, we had a reunion taking us back many moons away, and the idea was again to re-engage our alumni, SMA alumni. How can you give back and help develop your alma mater, develop the school? And I'm not talking there from the point of view of just the physical structure, the building, but the young men. I mean, I always try to I may come across a bit biased, but St. Mary's Academy, as we speak now, is the only all boys school on the island. Boys, that is. And we know the challenge that we've been hearing of young men in Dominica. They're the ones that get killed first. They're the ones that carry the guns. They're the ones that smoke the weed and all that on the block. And as we speak now, Simon, the St. Mary's Academy has a school population enrollment of 330, almost 350 young men. And the sister school, which is SMP, has 260 young men. So do the math. You're talking about a total of well over 500, almost 600 men, young men. And the question remains, what can we do to help shape and form the minds of these young men? Think of an SMP student who goes in from grade 1 to grade 5. That's 5 years. And then he goes across to SMP. Some may go to other schools, grammar school or whatever, other high school, but he goes across to SMA. You have another 5 years there. You're talking about 10 years, a decade. A decade. So think of it, what you as an old boy of that institution, because the two are related, the SMP is pretty much part of SMA. Think of what you can do as a mentor, as a role model, as an advisor to this young man who you can help shape his thought process or how he approach life and what his civic responsibility is. You have a decade to do that. So I think it is extremely important. And so I will say therefore that there is tremendous potential, there is hope. And again, want to commend all the, like this young man who Carlos referred to as doing the vinegar. But you see, herein lies again going back a little to the policy. While I agree with Alma that we should not let that stand in the way. But I'm sure if we had some sort of, I'm not sure how to call it, some sort of collaboration or structure, that young man that Carlos just referred to, that is looking for support in that product that he's doing, would have been more forthcoming. You see what I'm saying? Because yeah, he's doing a great product, and for some reason, not much is known about it, or he's trying to maybe collaborate with someone that might be able to provide maybe support, finance, whatever that is. And that is where if we have a structure, and you know, Simon, you know me on the question of structure. This Vike approach doesn't work. It does not work in business. It doesn't work in family. You've got to have a structure. In the absence of that, this poor entrepreneur who's looking for an opportunity or way out is kind of frustrated or limited. So I guess moving forward, we have to find a way now. How do we collaborate in a more effective way between those of us in the diaspora and Dominica? And as I'm gonna say, how do we build that trust? So the folks in Dominica trust us out here, and we trust them. And we know that this is a partnership we're in together. Because you have this young man that Carlos referred to, who wants to develop that opportunity that he has with this vinegar product.
Yep. And in my mind, it's always about connecting everyone together, right? Because here we have you, Alvin, who's an expert in creating the structure. And here we have Ronnie calling on the phone, talking about the importance of cooperatives, right? And you can guide them on that, creating that cooperative structure. So it's a matter of bringing people together. And by the way, Carlos, I would love to engage with that young man with the vinegar project, because I think if he can get the exposure by coming on Roots Connections, and he can make the potential connections, because that is how we build capacity. But guys, we must take the comments on Facebook, because people have been firing comments for the whole evening, and we want to acknowledge their contribution to the program. So Desamach, Selassie, Kendrick, thank you so much for all your wonderful contributions. And guys, make a note if there are any comments you want to respond to. He says, what if we use these millions to build a processing plant? Would this government allow it to be done? So kind of just take a note if you want to respond to any of the comments. Indigenous Bushman says, depending on who you travel with, the departure tax is attached to the price of an airline ticket. Let's see, there's a match again. We Dominicans, if we can send 38 million, and by the way, our population is very small. So I do think that even we in the diaspora can be able to buy millions of our products that would be coming from Dominica if it is packaged and delivered properly. Thank you so much for that. Let's see someone we haven't taken yet. And then Desamach also says maybe we should just buy shares so we can begin the process. Majority of these first world countries either buy their cities on slavery or through building shares and building from the ground. Ricardo, we talked about you being here. Thank you. Sharon Dorival, thank you for being here. And you know, Sharon had posted a comment earlier in the day, and I wanted to read a part of it. So she says, the policy's role in securing Dominica's future could include encouraging investment, incentivizing diaspora investments in key sectors like tourism, agriculture, and renewable energy. Skills transfer, facilitating knowledge sharing and skills transfer between diaspora professionals and local communities. And then she also talks about diaspora voting rights, cultural preservation, promoting cultural exchange, and preserving Dominica. So Sharon, thank you for posting that earlier in the day. Let's just take some very quick comments. Dr. Kevin Laura, always great to see you on board. Happy about the idea of internship and volunteerism. Thank you, Dr. Kevin. Nice to see you. Dominic 767 Dom says goat milk would be another excellent product to develop locally and for export. It's highly nutritious, easier to digest than cow's milk, and ideal for people with lactose insensitivity. And then he continues, with proper processing, it could support local farmers, reduce imports, improve food security, and create a valuable export product in the region. Yannick Coldwater Perriman, nice to see you. Owen Prosper, nice to see you as well. Let's make sure we take a comment, at least one comment from everyone who made a contribution. Let's see, at 767 Dam, we must cut ties and stand on our own feet, build our own future, protect our young, elderly, and vulnerable. Our future is watching how we act today. So guys, thank you so much. Damien Pressure, they definitely are not using the diaspora effectively. A doctor wanted to donate to a struggling hospital for free supplies, and they squeezed him until he wasn't able to do so. Tell me this government really cares. Very quickly. Hugo Santile, always great to see you. She's tuned in. She's late. You get you're never too late because you can always catch the replay. So if anyone missed any portion of the program, you can always catch the replay by going to Push Past 10 or Q95 FM radio on Facebook or Q95 FM radio on YouTube. So you did not miss anything. Sandra Green, nice to see you. Commitment is also very critical. Dr. Laura, Alvin, let's partner with Manhood Series to impact this boy. So Alvin, do you have Dr. Laura's phone number?
Yes, I do. I do.
So reach out to him because you know
certainly.
This is what Roots Connection is about. It's about creating strategic alliances so we can do this work. Sharon, so far I can order from JD's Naturals and Indigenous Bushman directly. I would like to see that with more businesses in Dominica. Thank you, Sharon. So anybody wants to make any comments on anything that was posted? Oh, we got a phone call, guys, and then we're going to come for your final thoughts. We need to do a part 2, right?
Absolutely.
Phone call.
Thank you, caller, for being there. Go ahead, please.
Lambert is me again. I just want to give Miss Simon my number.
Yes.
is 265 9673 because our internet
9673.
Yes, our internet is dropping a lot and you don't get a good reception. So if you call me, I can always interact with you.
Okay, excellent.
I was just saying, look at Dominica and Rose. You have at least 6,000 people, 5,000 people, 3,000 people a day, tourists on the island from the cruise ships.
Mm-hmm.
And how much benefit we benefit with it. It's just a few people come off the ship. And I remember some time back, people like Lennox Linton was working with DCP and he would put some of DCP products on the ship. Even people like Clive Farrer, those guys would put rye bananas, Brisbane would put pineapples. And these are opportunities because we have a lot of natural things the cruise ships looking for. Our fresh water, our dry spice, as you just saying, vinegar. But I know you're closing and I want the other people to give a comment. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you, Ronnie. I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Yes, so guys, final thoughts as we are winding down. So call us your final thoughts as we wind down.
I don't want to seem like a stock record, but it comes back to a lot of what has been said throughout the duration of the program. As very eloquently presented by Amma, we cannot worry about a dependency syndrome and Dominica being crippled. Mm-hmm. We have to take the bull by the horns and we have to make things happen. We cannot wait for people to do it for us. You see, Amma is doing what she's doing. You see, Petra is doing what she's doing.
Yep.
And many other persons as well. I see someone commented about JD Naturals. She's doing a phenomenal job in promoting her products as well. We cannot just wait for that. So the diasporans, I encourage you to find somebody. Doesn't have even we talk about the trust thing. There's also legal ways of doing things. There's always a way. Let's all find a way to work together to make things better for not just for yourself, but for our island on a whole. Mm-hmm. I have to remind us about the reverse brain drain. Mm-hmm. Find a way to contribute, whether it be in person or remotely. The internet has made the world a global place, and even smaller. We don't have to wait to go to the one payphone in the village to get a call. You can easily send about see how fast Ronnie gave you his number. Tomorrow morning you're talking to him.
Absolutely.
Right. So let's find a way to all work together and not wait for government until the time is presented that we can change the government and fix our country the way that we all want it to be.
Thank you, Carlos. Let me come to you, Alvin. But before I do, what I'm hearing is this is going to take a grassroots movement, Alvin. This is going to take a grassroots movement. And if we can just take what the DLC, the Dominica Livestock Cooperative, is doing and implement that in other sectors. So what we have to do is engage with the folks for the Dominica Lifestyle Cooperative, because we know that these are people who are in various parts of the world. Lester is all the way in California. He's not even on our same time zone. He's like 3 hours behind us in terms of the time zone, but yet he is effectively running the Dominica Livestock Cooperatives with Dominicans on the ground. So how is he making it possible? Right?
Yeah.
How is he able to build that trust that we're talking about? So the importance of those grassroots movements in terms of taking what they're doing and implementing it in other sectors, that is going to be my hope and what I'm going to be working on for 2026. So your final thoughts as we wind down, Alvin.
Thank you, Simon. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you and the other two guests, we seem to have lost her, and Carlos, for being, engaging in that kind of conversation. And of course, our friend Lambi in the production studio. I think, though, that what is happening now, and I'll have to go back to that, the current geopolitical, if that's the term we all want to use, is going to force us to think differently. There's no doubt about it. It's going to force us to think differently. Given the administration that's in place in the US, we have another 3 years to live with that, whether we like it or not. So we have some time. We have time. Time is of the urgency. It's urgency of now, as they say. But we're going to have to think differently in how we approach things and how we do things. I, too, have listened to Ronnie several times. He called on several programs. As he rightly stated this evening, and what you can hear from him, he's a small businessman in Dominica, operating in Dominica. And he talks about the challenges that he faces. But that does not stop him. He continues to plug on. But he made some very important point tonight. The fact that, and Amma made the point as well, that we can't do this alone. And while it may be true that we don't need to wait on quote unquote the government, we should, take charge of what we got to do and move. I still believe, though, that for any business to survive in a very successful and effective manner, you need to have a sort of enabling environment. The environment must be conducive. It's like raising a child. If the home is not conducive for that child is likely to go any way, no matter how good intention there may be. So it's the same for the business. So while I agree on one hand that we should not sit back on our laurels and do what we need to do, I think there has to be a sort of partnership and an environment. For some of us, it may be an easy walk. As Amma rightly pointed out, she came up through some hurdles to get it to where it is today. But I will only end by saying that there is hope. Do not give up. There is hope. Those of us in the diaspora, and I can speak as someone in the diaspora, and I guess yourself, Dr. Simon. I mean, I migrated many years ago, but that did not stop me from connecting myself to what's happening in my country, Dominica. I always know, no matter how many years I stay out there, that Dominica is my home. Home. And this is where I want to see the development and see something happen. When I have the breath of life, that is what I will continue.
Yes, yes.
To help promote and see Dominica as that. I mean, I saw a video that I think Dr. Thompson posted. He was up at Diaspora and he was doing a reporting, and he showed where they started feeling that they would do some water, fresh water. I mean, I looked at water, and the other water I would just put in my hand and drink, and that water flowing,
Yep.
flowing, and you know, that water by the next 10, 15 years, and it's going to be one of the scarcest.
Yep. Scarcest resources.
There are countries now that wish they had a bucket of material. So I'm saying this to say we got the resources, we got the people. Our Dominican people are not lazy people, despite what people might say about our young people.
Our young people are not lazy.
They just want the right direction, the right mentorship. But the land, like I said earlier, we have more fertile land than what Singapore had. We have water. Water is life. The human body, 75% of the liquid in the human body is water. I guess, Amma, you could correct me on that if I'm wrong. You're a nurse, right? So water is life. We got water. We got land. We got people, the human resource. So we got it.
Yep.
We just now have to find a way to harness it together, trust each other, collaborate with each other, and this thing of them and us, that has to go for now. It has to, we have to just get rid of that lingo. It's we, collectively, it's we Dominicans. Just happened that some of us are in Atlanta, in New York, in California, and some are in Roseau and Wesley and Marydon.
And DLC is showing us how we can set that aside.
Absolutely.
There are tons of Dominicans from all over the world, and so they all have one focus.
Exactly. So again, thanks, Simon, and I'm sure there's likely to be a part 2.
Oh, absolutely.
We've scratched the surface. There's so much more that can be said, and I'm sure.
Yes, we have more to explore.
I enjoy the company with my good friend Carlos and Amma, my daughter, my adopted. Should I say my adopted or my stepmom or just my daughter?
You're adopted because you're adopted.
It was really a pleasure being here this evening.
Yes, thank you. And Catherine, thank you for joining in. She says young people want to work, but for good pay. So Amma, let me thank you again. Let me thank you again for igniting the fire to finally bring this conversation to fruition. So again, thank you for that Facebook program you did that inspired this program. And I'm looking forward to your final thoughts. But you know, one of the things that struck me from your conversation was you were talking about investing in village projects. So instead of sending money, yes, we have to support urgent needs of our family in Dominica, but we should also be sending money to invest in village projects. So once we get past the trust issue, that is something we should be looking at. So your final thoughts as we wind down.
I'll try to keep it to a minute and a half.
Thank you.
So basically, at the center of everything that we've been discussing tonight, there's one word, and that is trust.
Yes.
And trust doesn't come from policy documents or an announcement. It's built through consistent action, transparency, and shared responsibility. If we want to bridge the gap between the diaspora and those at home, we have to start by listening both ways, without judgment, without superiority, and without resentment. People on the island need to feel respected. People in the diaspora need to feel welcome. Trust begins there. Trust is built through small, visible wins, not big promises, but projects that work, youth programs that produce results, cooperatives that export, funds that report back clearly with transparency. When people see progress, confidence grows. We also have to move away from charity and towards partnership. Charity creates dependency, partnership creates ownership. When everyone has a role and responsibility, trust deepens, accountability matters. Clear expectations, clear reporting, and honesty when things are being done. People don't lose trust because of mistake. They lose trust because of silence. And finally, trust requires long-term commitment, which is what one caller talked about. Development is not an event, it's a relationship, and relationships only work when people stay engaged beyond the excitement. Dominica's future will be built when diaspora and home stop operating separately and start building together. The door is open, the opportunity is here, and trust is how we move forward.
Very well said. Thank you. I couldn't have said it any better. So my goal this year is going to be to continue along this path, right? This path of sustainable development, this path of securing the future of Dominicans, and especially following up on those reunions, because one of the questions I ask with every reunion, and Alvin will remember this, one of the questions I asked everyone who came and did a reunion program on my platform, I said, what will be the steps beyond the reunion? So I'm going to hold them accountable, because I think, Amma, that's a very important word that you have included in the discussion. I'm going to be holding their feet to the fire, and I'm going to be holding them accountable to say, great, I'm sure the reunion was wonderful, but what have you done since the reunion? Because that is how we're going to build that grassroots movement that we're talking about, to ensure that we keep the momentum. Alvin, you wanted to chime in?
No, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And obviously, I, at some point in the, on your program, will be happy, and I'll be happy to come and share some of that with you, because we did it, as I said, recently with our alma mater, and it was, in our view, very successful. It fired up and engaged quite a few folks. And the intention, as we said, is not just structural, though that's how it started with the project on the roof to raise funds for that, but I think it goes way beyond that.
Yes.
I know I could say, for example, that I know the school has a very successful 4-H club program undertaken there, and part of that, what they do in the 4-H club is agriculture as well, and very well run program, quite a good activities. So I think there's a lot of room for growth, for improvement.
Yeah. And so I want to continue to give the support, continue to give the recognition, continue to give the encouragement, so that these reunions can produce fruit. Produce fruit that we can benefit from. But guys, we have to run. Lambi has to head home. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Amma, for the program. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Alvin, for being here with us as we talked about, is the diaspora enabling the dependency syndrome, which is crippling Dominica? And we looked at the way forward, especially as it relates to the visa bans and all the restrictions that we're seeing imposed on Dominica. So I want to thank you, whether you listened on the radio or you were on the Facebook and the YouTube lives. I want to thank you for being here with us. We're going to continue this conversation on sustainable development, this conversation on securing the future of Dominica by harnessing, the power of technology, social media, international radio, as we continue to build the capacity needed for the sustainable development of our beautiful country. And as you listen to the program, I always want to leave this thought with you. What role can you play? So we disseminated a lot of information today. Carlos shared opportunities where you can get involved. Amma has a farm on the ground. She has a wellness program. Alvin has sons who have a business in Dominica. So what role can you play in your own area of the world to support what we're doing for Dominica, so we can start talking less and doing more, and we can finally turn that passion we have for Dominica into action for Dominica? And if you're working on any impactful program, any projects in terms of moving our country and our people forward. I'm always happy to hear from you. And thank you, everyone who continues to reach out with program ideas. You can reach me at pushpast10@gmail.com. So that is pushpast10@gmail.com. I am looking forward to hearing from you. Lambi, thank you. Showing, thank you for keeping us connected, Mr. G, the Q95 family. So as we wind down, I want to wish you a wonderful rest of your week. We will be back with you in 2 weeks for another episode of Roots Connections on Q. I've been your host, Dr. Simone Matthew. And until next time, you have yourself a wonderful night's rest. Thank you, guys. Excellent program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good
Take
night.
Mr. Charles.
care. Bye, guys. Thanks.
All right. Okay. All the
Bye.
best.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Roots Connections on Q. 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every other Wednesday on Q95, the big station. Dominicans journeyed beyond our shores for decades in search of economic opportunities and educational advancement.